Ontario's COVID infections keep the state of emergency in place. A stark reminder to call before you dig. And get your popcorn ready because drive-ins are open again. All that and more coming up right now. Welcome to Cogeco News for June the 2nd. I'm James Bowler with what's happening in your community. Well, going straight to looking at the COVID-19 infection rate in the Simcoe-Muskoka District Health Unit, there were no new infections reported today in Muskoka. However, just south of us, 2 people from Severn Township were confirmed infected by the virus. They were a man in his 60s and a woman in her 20s. Both contracted the virus from close contact with another infected person. This comes just a day after the health unit confirmed the first viral infection in Muskoka in just over 2 weeks, a man in his 60s from Gravenhurst. Of course, we'll continue to closely follow these updates as they become available. Now, the province is officially extending the state of emergency in Ontario until the end of June, following a session in Queen's Park today. Doug Ford told reporters that this, however, would not affect the reopening of the economy during the next month.
The state of emergency is not going to affect reopening whatsoever. We're going to move forward with reopening. We're looking at a regional plan as well, but that's not going to stop us. We're working day in and day out. I know Minister Fedeli, Minister Phillips, and Minister Elliott, they're all working on a plan to try to get reopened, but we have to reopen safely. And I understand the problems that these businesses are going through, but we're going as quickly as possible. I say it all the time. No one wants to get the economy going more than I do. And once we start, we're just going to, just go full steam ahead. We have a great plan about, telling the people, let's buy Canadian.
Moving from provincial to federal, earlier today, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau reacted with what's being called a pregnant pause after being asked to react to Donald Trump's response to the ongoing protests in the U.S.
You've been reluctant to comment on the words and actions of the U.S. president, but we do have Donald Trump now calling for military action against protesters. We saw protesters tear gas yesterday to make way for a presidential photo op. I'd like to ask you what you think about that, and if you don't want to comment, what message do you think you're sending?
We all watch in horror and consternation what's going on in the United States. It is a time to pull people together, but it is a time to listen. It is a time to learn what injustices continue despite progress over years and decades. But it is a time for us as Canadians to recognize that we too have our challenges, that Black Canadians and racialized Canadians face discrimination as a lived reality every single day.
Now, joining me live from his home is our MP, Scott Aitchison, and we're going to talk a bit about this video and the Prime Minister's reaction. So, Scott, first of all, thank you very much for taking the time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, James.
So, Scott, they're calling it a pregnant pause that Mr. Trudeau took on when asked about Trump's reaction to the current protests in the States. You wanted to get your reaction from his reaction, I suppose.
Well, I think obviously it's important for the Prime Minister of Canada to choose his or her words carefully when talking about the leader of any other nation, and of course, particularly when it comes to our relationship with the United States. And of course, our relationship with the United States under President Trump has been particularly challenging, I guess. And so I kind of understand, I guess, to some degree why he was a little cautious about the words that he would use to talk about that. I think that President Trump has had some fairly bizarre reactions throughout his presidency to things going on in the United States, and um, clearly this latest situation is another example of a really bizarre and an unfortunate reaction to a real tragedy, and not just this particular incident. I mean, the issue of race relations in the United States is particularly troublesome, and of course continues to be a pervasive problem. I'm glad, I guess, that the Prime Minister did take the moment as well to reflect upon the fact that there are race issues in our country as well, and I would hope that what we see happening in the United States would be an opportunity for all Canadians to think very carefully and seriously about the state of race relations in this country, and not just relationships with the Black community and how that situation is, but of course our relationship with First Nations communities and our relationship with all visible minorities in this country. We have work to do as well, and so I'm glad that he reflected a little bit on the fact that we're not done, healing these rifts that exist in Canada as well.
Scott, following the announcement by Mr. Trudeau, he was hammered again and again in the House regarding the situation with minorities in Canada. So I'm just curious, from your perspective, from the Conservatives' perspective, what more can the government be doing at this point beyond what's already being done in terms of reparations to help with minorities?
Well, I think that when you look at the specific situation related to, particularly to Black communities in larger cities like Toronto, for example, I've heard lots of activists talk about focusing more investment on supports and programs for everything from affordable housing to employment programs that can help people get out of a cycle that they find themselves trapped in. In many ways it relates as well to the issue that we've talked about before about firearms legislation. If you look at what's going on in some of these communities with gun violence, and it's particularly prevalent in some of these impoverished communities where young people decide that they're going to join a gang. Banning rifles and things like that do not solve that problem. We need to look at the root causes of those problems, and of course, the root cause of those problems, is everything from poverty and the challenges surrounding that, homelessness and underhousing and inadequate housing. I think that we really need to focus on the root causes of these problems and why young people, particularly, it seems, to a greater propensity, young people in Black communities feel that they have a better chance by joining a gang. These are the root causes of the issues that we need to address to ensure that that hopelessness does not pervade these communities of people from visible minorities. There's a lot more we can do in terms of housing and supports instead of just enforcing law and targeting people because of the way they look.
Thank you again. Great to get perspective from our local MP on these matters. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, James.
All right, we are going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back. Well, the OPP in West Parry Sound is on the lookout for a suspect after a manhunt failed to locate him. On Monday, police were pursuing a vehicle after it failed to stop for officers on Highway 400. West Parry Sound OPP used a spike belt to stop the vehicle at the Highway 559 exit. Two people quickly fled the area. One person was taken down by police and arrested in a wooded area. Police then called in help from aviation and canine services, but were not able to track the other suspect. As of today, the OPP is asking anyone to be on the lookout for a black man who is about 6 feet tall, between 18 and 20, with a thin build, weighing about 150 pounds. He was wearing a white t-shirt at the time with black pants with Adidas written on them. If you have seen this man or you know of his whereabouts, you're asked to call the OPP or leave an anonymous tip with Crime Stoppers. Moving to Gravenhurst, the Gravenhurst Fire Department is warning you to call before you dig. A gas leak in Gravenhurst earlier today has prompted another reminder from fire officials to call before you dig. Just before noon, Gravenhurst Fire Department was called to a property on John Street where a gas line was ruptured. Crews were joined by Union Gas officials to assess the situation and repair the leak. Luckily, the leak did not lead to anyone having to evacuate nearby properties, but fire officials say this is a good reminder to make a call before you dig. Officials say the call is free to make and it avoids leading to a dangerous situation like this gas line rupture. Now, support for local business is top of mind as the town of Huntsville, the Huntsville Lake of Bays Chamber of Commerce, and the downtown BAA are working together to help provide the resources businesses need as they start back up again.
We are pulling together an opportunity for businesses to participate in a complimentary PPE program where they can basically just sign up for what they need. Currently we have hand sanitizer, masks, some social distancing stickers, and both the Chamber and the BIA are working with the municipality to collect the information, and I think it's really going to be helpful for the businesses. So I applaud the municipality, certainly. Their number one concern is safety for themselves and their employees, of course. But we're also hearing how expensive these materials are and how it's really difficult for them to access them. It's getting easier to find them and procure them, but the bill is very high and it's not a budgeted expense. Looking at what the businesses have been through in the last couple of months on top of it, it's really going to be difficult. So it's really good that the municipality really wants to prepare the businesses and our whole community to be safe. And you don't need to be a member of the Chamber of Commerce. Any business in Huntsville is eligible to contact us. So you can email us at admin@huntsvillelakeofbays.on.ca or just give me a call directly at 788-5847. You can also go to our website and find the form there to download.
Now, in order to take part in this program, you will need to reach out to the Chamber by 4 p.m. this Thursday. We are taking another break, but stick with us for more after this. Welcome back. Well, with some restrictions being lifted, the province is now including drive-ins to be open for business. Our Samantha Johnson has more.
The Muskoka Drive-In is now officially open, but owner William Alexander says it took a lot of persuasion, along with others, to convince the government that the drive-ins could provide a safe environment.
Somehow the government placed us in the movie theater category. And it took a lot of pushing and prodding and all the drive-ins banding together and putting forth a plan and media, social media, you name it, to get the government to kind of put a focus on us again. And we are incredibly happy that we can welcome our customers back to our drive-in.
And like many other businesses, they too have safety guidelines they must follow.
Some of those things we have to do is when people come in, we'll be half capacity. So basically where we would normally put 2 cars between our speaker poles, it's 1 car between our speaker poles. There cannot be any open trucks. You cannot be in an open area. Convertibles are not allowed. You have to be in a car that's a hardtop. Or if you're in a convertible, that the top is up at all times. You cannot sit outside. Unfortunately, we can't open our playgrounds at the moment. And then on top of that, the government has said we cannot open our snack bar, which we're talking to them. We're having conversations about how we can rectify that, change that, because that's the livelihood of any drive-in. And then when you come to our washrooms, we've gone through a touchless system now where faucet, soap, etc., all touchless. We're limiting the amount of people going in. You'll sanitize before you go in. You'll wash before you come back out. And then we'll regularly disinfect it on a more timely basis to make sure that everything is safe for the customers.
And overall, Williams says that though there are changes in place, people are still happy to be able to get out and enjoy a movie on a big screen after being cooped up for so long. He also says that because people feel safe in this environment, he is now getting approached by other community groups on opportunities to hold different kinds of events.
We've been approached by all kinds of groups to open here at the drive-in, schools to do graduations. We've been approached to do a wedding here. Concerts is going to be a main staple of what we do here at the drive-in. Peter's Players, Peter approached me and said, could we do some of the concerts here? We've worked out something so that concerts could be held during the day, movies at night. And basically he's bringing in a stage to ensure that we've got that facility available. And that also will allow outside groups to come in and utilize the stage. Peter will take care of those situations through the day. I'll run the drive-in at night. It just makes for an more interesting way that the community at large can still be a part of it, that we become a hub.
So if you would like to experience the beautiful Muskoka Drive-In, then make sure to check out their lineup of movies being offered starting June 4th. Reporting in Gravenhurst, I'm Samantha Johnson.
Well, I'll definitely be there on June 4th, and I hope you are too, to support a local business. We are going to take another break, but stay tuned. If you watch the space launch over the weekend, you'll definitely want to see what we have coming up next. Can mark it for the history books. NASA and SpaceX have successfully launched astronauts to the International Space Station for the first time in 10 years over the weekend. Melissa Candelaria has more on that story.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon. Go NASA, go SpaceX, Godspeed, Bob and Doug.
And there you have it. The Dragon has launched. On Saturday, NASA, in partnership with SpaceX, successfully launched 2 astronauts to the International Space Station. Oakville resident and retired astronaut Dr. David Williams says it was an incredible launch.
I was glued to my seat all day Saturday, just getting ready for the launch, and then, of course, doing live commentary during the launch. An unbelievable historic moment. The weather opened up. The launch was picture perfect. Everything went according to plan. The crew did a phenomenal job, had a ride of a lifetime on a historic first vehicle, opening up the dawn of the new era of space exploration.
And the first step to this new era of space exploration is making sure that, well, everything works. Williams says the main focus of this mission was to demonstrate the capabilities of the Dragon spacecraft.
During launch, rendezvous and docking, they were able to assess the handling characteristics of the vehicle on orbit. They're thrilled, absolutely thrilled with the precision, the performance of the spacecraft. The ride was a lot smoother than on the space shuttle. You didn't get the jostling back and forth that we get on the shuttle with the solid rocket boosters. So far, it's been a really successful mission, demonstrating launch, rendezvous, docking, all taken care of very successfully. And now they'll be remaining on the space station for a period of time. The last portion of the mission to assess the technology is the re-entry of Dragon, the landing of Dragon, and then the recovery of the crew from the vehicle.
Station Houston on the Big Loop. Houston and station are now go for docking.
So what does this mean for the future of space exploration? Williams says it's a critical stepping stone in the path back to the moon.
Those Artemis missions of the future, hopefully around 2024, 2025, and perhaps we'll see a Canadian on one of those missions. Of course, we have Jeremy Hansen next up for a space flight. He hasn't been assigned yet to the best of my knowledge, but we're looking forward to that mission. Then we've got Josh and Ginny ready to go as well. So it's going to be an exciting future for Canada in space, seeing future flights to the space station and potentially a Canadian walking on the surface of the moon.
Now, this mission has a personal connection for Williams. Having gone to the International Space Station himself 12 years ago, Williams says he certainly feels like he's there in spirit.
My heart is with both Bob and Doug and, of course, the space station crew. It's just a phenomenal mission, and there's nothing better for an astronaut than the first test flight of a new spacecraft. The picture behind me is of the space shuttle. The last time I was on the International Space Station, I took that on my second spacewalk. So yeah, I helped build the space station. Now it's exciting seeing the station used for its research purposes to get us ready for missions back to the moon.
On behalf of the SpaceX and NASA partnership, congratulations on a phenomenal accomplishment and welcome to the International Space Station.
Reporting for Cogeco News, I'm Melissa Candelaria.
Thanks very much, Demille, for filing that report. We are going to take our last break, but when we come back, a recap of today's headlines. Welcome back. Here's a quick recap of today's headlines. Ontario is extending its state of emergency to the end of the month, but Premier Doug Ford walked back on that as well, saying it will not affect the plan to continue to reopen the economy. A suspect is on the loose after he slipped police during a manhunt in Parry Sound. And your movie watching experience can happen again from the safety of your car as the province reopens drive-in theaters, including the one in Gravenhurst. That is Cogeco News. For more information on the program, head over to yourtv.tv or connect with us on social media by searching Your TV Muskoka. Now, bingo players in Huntsville and Parry Sound, the night you've waited for is tonight. We're bringing back bingo at 7 o'clock. So make sure to get your cards now and tune in to win some big money. And remember to watch me live at 5 Monday to Thursday. And from everyone here at Cogeco News, thanks for watching.